Good evening out there, IB Nation. Welcome to another edition of IB Nation Sports Talk. I am Vince D'Addario. That guy over there is Jesse Stiers. You will notice there is no senior Stiers in the house because he is en route to the ACC championship along with the Notre Dame women's basketball team. So he will be with us tomorrow and Friday because the women play at 11 a.m. in the 4 slot, most likely against Louisville, I believe. And so it'll be a rematch of the other day, which will be very interesting all by itself. So Sean will be with us tomorrow and Friday from the road, and then we'll see what next week holds. Jesse, how you doing today, man?
I was doing good. Got home at a good time. Was hanging out, and I was like, oh, you know what? I might as well just go get the computer booted up, get a little ready, did all those things, and then I fired up the old Google Chrome, and it was just spinning on me. I was like, what is going on right now? And so that was a little frustrating. So I saw someone in the chat said, do we think the tardiness is due to Vince or to Jesse? It was because of me. I will take the blame on this one. So, and hey, speaking of the ACC tournament and the women's team, I don't know if you caught any of yesterday's show, but I got pretty fired up. And
Did you?
I just want to ask you a question in terms of pure logistics. Just drop everything you know, and I'm just going to give you 2 facts, and I want you to give me an answer, right?
Okay. A lot of pressure.
So, if player A leads the conference in scoring, and is the defensive player of the year. So you're telling me that the best offensive and the best defensive player in the conference, should that player win MVP of said conference?
I mean, when you see, here's your problem, Jesse. You deal in logic, and most people don't, because you are 100% accurate that player A should 100% be the player of the year. And she wasn't. She came in third.
Isn't that insane?
Ridiculous.
You're the best offensive and defensive player in a conference, and you don't win conference player of the – like, what else are you supposed to do? Win 6th man of the year? Like, I don't understand what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, you take Hannah Hidalgo off of Notre Dame's team, they are a shell of themselves. Let's just
they are down bad.
Yeah. I mean, they're still good to be good. They're still good players on Notre Dame's team.
That's just the talent.
Correct. But, I mean, she's a catalyst for everything that they do. I mean, she is the most valuable player. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's ridiculous. I didn't agree with it. I assumed she was going to come in second because the media are just dummies and that was going to happen. And then she came in third. I was like, wow. That one absolutely surprised me. Absolutely surprised me.
All right. Now we can carry on.
All right. Fair enough. We got a lot of questions.
That lingered. Yeah. I was so mad.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So, but your day was good?
Day was good. Just the weather's bad, you know? Like,
yeah.
It's
Really? Is it bad where you are?
Oh, it's cold and it's like 40 degrees, cloudy, and it's rained all day.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you got probably getting the rain we got yesterday, but it wasn't cold though. You know what I mean? Like, it's 50 right now. Just went on a walk with the wife and the dog and my youngest son. And it was like jacket weather. It was a little windy, but it wasn't bad. You know, it was like 52 or 3 when we went out.
No, like you don't want to be outside. You walk outside and you're like angry that you're outside type weather.
Yuck. Oof.
So that sucked.
Yeah.
I get that. It really messes with, because like I get really bad, like when fall turns to winter and winter turns to spring, I just get really bad congestion.
Oh yeah.
Itchiness, like nose, throat, all of that stuff. And so it's like, you know, one day I wake up and have to take an allergy pill, and the next day it's like snowing outside. So it's like I just need it to stick to one or the other at this point.
Pick one. Yeah. I'm the opposite. I that happens to me fall to winter. Like, that's when I start getting all the stuff in the face and the nostril. Yeah. It's horrible. So right during football season. It's beautiful. All right. It is a mailbag, as who was it that was upset that we were talking about other things? Ryan Roberts' forehead. Yeah, he's all upset at us. But hey, we got to catch up with each other, man. Like, we're not just colleagues, we're friends. All right. So we got to catch up a little bit. By the way, Jesse, heard from a certain SEC school for my son.
Oh, did you? That's exciting news.
So it's kind of exciting. It could be nothing, but you never know. Was very surprised.
Interest is better than no interest.
Yeah, no doubt. So a little conversation going back and forth with the coach, with the special teams guy, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. Still waiting on that call from Notre Dame. I don't know. All right. It is mailbag time. Let's jump into this thing. Well, we were talking about women's basketball, and we've got a couple of women's basketball questions to lead us off. Here we go. Straight off the chute.
Mailbag, how far will the ladies make it? So I'm assuming we are talking about the NCAA tournament. Like, yeah, you want to do well in the ACC tournament, but you get your recognition for what you do in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to get in as a 4 seed after their strong finish. And I was telling my dad this the other day. We were talking on the phone. Notre Dame is the only team in the ACC with double-digit home wins and double-digit road wins. It does not matter where Notre Dame plays. They are a consistent team, and they're going to play well. Like, they beat UConn on the road. They beat a good Duke team on the road. They beat a good Florida State team on the road. I just think that in terms of when it comes to the NCAA tournament, that's something that is largely beneficial, because I don't think a moment is too big for them no matter where they're playing, right? Like they're just there to play basketball. I think they're going to be a 4 seed.
Okay.
And I think as long as they don't get –
I agree with
they're
the
a Sweet
seed,
16 team. I think that they should have no problem kind of getting back to where they were last season. I just don't know if there's enough to get past the Sweet 16 this year / who the 1 seed is in their bracket. Because if it's Notre Dame 4 against South Carolina 1, I mean, let's have a realistic conversation here, right? Like,
right.
I think that also plays into a factor of who are the remaining kind of seeds in their Sweet 16 bracket. So I want to say they're a Sweet 16, potentially Final 8 team, depending on who they get matched up with. I'd love for them to make it to the Final 4, because it's in Cleveland this year, and so we could have a little powwow in Cleveland. But realistically, I see them as a Sweet 16 Elite 8 team.
Okay. I would have to say that you and your dad probably know the landscape of women's basketball better than I do. But just watching this team as many times as I have, and watching the competition that they've played, and things like that, right? I agree with you that they're a 4 seed, 100%. And I think they take care of business on their home floor. I think they have a good shot of hosting the first round, right? Or the first 2 rounds. And so they win the first 2 rounds. They're in the Sweet 16. So I think they defend home court for sure. I think so that gets them into the Sweet 16. This team just, without looking at matchups and all of that, because we don't know what the matchups are going to be, right? This team feels to me like an Elite 8 team. That's what it feels like to me. Like, I don't think they're a Final 4 team. Could they be? Sure, with the right draw, playing. If the big 3 are they all score like 18 plus. Like, they've got a shot at getting to the Final 4, right? It just feels like an Elite 8 team to me. Now, like you said, if they run into a buzzsaw in the round of 16, well, that's obviously a different conversation. But it just, I don't know. I get the feeling that they're like an Elite 8 type team. Not quite Final 4, better than Sweet 16. So I got them in the Elite 8. Again, we'll see what the bracket looks like. But I like this team. I think they're scrappy. I think you're right. I think they play hard on the road at home. I think they're
battle tested.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of teams that have a resume like Notre Dame has. I think that they put themselves out there and played teams like South Carolina, Tennessee, UConn, in a really strong, ACC this season. I just think that they have a lot of experience, and they went through their kind of lumps and bruises. They know who they are at this point. They know who Hannah Hidalgo is. They know who Maddie Westbeld is. You know what I mean? Like, the roles aren't changing. As long as something significant doesn't happen the roles aren't changing, and this team knows how to play together, and they know how to play
Sure.
together well. And I think if you can do that at home or on the road in a neutral site, whatever it might be, I think that they have some of the most experience this season. And then I think the other part of the question, the Ryan's forehead said that it applied to the ACC tournament as well. I think they're going to make it to the ACC championship game. I think they'll have no problem with Louisville. Virginia Tech struggles with Notre Dame. Kitley got banged up in the last game of the season, so I don't know if she'll be 100%. And then it'll come down to, I think, the ACC championship and what that matchup looks like. I'm not going to say that I think they'll win it, but I think that they have a very good shot of being in the championship.
All right. I like it. I think that's very accurate as well. It's tough to beat though, Virginia Tech and Louisville. It's just the way that obviously the bracket shakes out. They just played those two teams, and they're probably going to have to play both of them again in consecutive nights. That's tough. That's going to be tough because Notre Dame took both of them to task. Right. And that rematch is going to be tough. But I like the way I really like Notre Dame's plan against Virginia Tech. And then they just played really well against Louisville, right? So I agree with you. I think they got a good shot at going to the championship game. And after they've gone through the two teams that they will have had to go through, I like their chances in the championship too. Syracuse is obviously giving them a hard time. So it would most likely be Syracuse Notre Dame, I would think, in the championship, but we'll see how it all plays out. But I like Notre Dame's chances if they get in there. All right, let's just continue the trend here with Ryan Roberts' forehead.
Mailbag. How high of a seed can they earn by winning the conference tournament in the Big Dance? I would say 3.
Yeah, I think that's the ceiling right now.
Sure. I think that would be really pushing it because you would say they're a top 12 team by that point. But again, you look at Notre Dame's record and it's like, UConn's going to probably be a 3 seed. Notre Dame beat UConn. Notre Dame would have run through the entire ACC probably the last quarter of the season to also get to that point. So, do they factor in relative hotness? I don't know. Do they how much they factor in, what kind of run you can make in the tournament? I don't know. But I think realistically, they're looking at a 4, maybe a 3, like maybe.
Yeah. I think they're a lock at 4 right now, as long as they don't lay a massive egg in game 1. So I think they're a lock at 4. And I think they're pretty much a lock at 4 unless they win. If they win it, I think they got a shot at 3. But those are that's the movement right there. I think it's 3 or 4, and you're only going to get 3 if you win the whole thing. So it's amazing how much these teams are already kind of locked in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Going into the conference tournaments. Wow, I just forgot a couple syllables there. Okay. Let's see here. Where do we want to go next? How about this little spring football question?
Joe wants to know, which position group are you worried about the most? Vince, do you want to start this one?
Sure. I mean, we kind of talked about it. What was it? Today's Wednesday, so Monday. I mean, look, there's a ton of talent there, but there's also a ton of question marks there. It's the offensive line for me. They're just having to replace 2 guys that are probably going to get drafted, and then a third guy in Zeke Correll, who is a stalwart starter for you for 2 years. So that's a lot to replace, and you may end up replacing 4 out of the 5 by the time it's all said and done at the end of the fall. And so, could this offensive line be really good? It could be, but I'm worried about it. I mean, I'm just worried about it from an experience standpoint. I think there's a lot of talent in the room, but there's not a lot of depth at tackle. So that kind of concerns me a little bit. So I'm going to go with offensive line.
I think offensive line is what I would say as well, but in an effort to be different and provide diversity in the content on this show, I would have to say wide receiver as well. I think there's tons of talent in the wide receiver room, but how they get the ball to that wide receiver. And listen, I want Notre Dame to have a dominant wide receiver. They need an 1,000-yard wide receiver. This is Notre Dame. This is an offense that is, supposedly going to be better under, Denbrock and Riley Leonard and, et cetera. But I still think they need a dude in the wide receiver room. And I'm worried about who is going to step up and be the dude. Like I said, I'm I think the offensive line has more issues because of lack of playing time and, experience and that sort of stuff. But I still think the wide receiver room has a problem because we haven't had 1,000-yard receiver in so long. And I feel like the offense is the missing piece to the puzzle, right? Like if Notre Dame's if I told you Notre Dame's offense has 2,000-yard receivers and 1,000-yard running back next year, you would say they're making the playoffs and they're making a run, right? So like that's the sort of output that they need at the wide receiver position, in my opinion.
Wow. 2,000-yard receivers.
No, sorry. They don't need 2,000-yard receivers. They definitely need one.
You're saying if they did.
But if they got two,
gosh.
that's a really contending team right there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no question about that. Holy cow. I'd be happy with one and then like a slew of 500 guys. You know what I mean? Or maybe a 700 guy.
I guess what I'm saying is you just need a guy, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm looking for.
Sure. No, look, I don't disagree with you. I think there's, I would say there's a huge question mark over the wide receiving core. I mean, it's almost completely different. I made the comparison, and I realize it's a little bit apples to oranges, but I made a comparison to the men's basketball team roster and the wide receiver room. Like it's almost completely different than it was last year.
Right.
The turnover is amazing in the wide receiver room, just as it was on the Notre Dame men's basketball team. So what are we going to get from the wide receiver room? I mean, we know that there's talent coming in from other schools, but some of it was lower level talent. Some of it was, it's big time in the return game. Like there's just a lot of question marks there. And then the guys that are still here, do they take that next step in guys that you can count on, like these freshmen, right? Greathouse and Faison. Are they going to be guys, KK Smith? They're going to be guys you can count on. Are they going to be rotational guys? What does that look like? There's a lot of question marks when it comes to the wide receiver room. A lot of question marks. So it's not good that we have two major question marks on two different position groups on one side of the football, but that's where we are. Now, am I complete? Like the word worried is not one that I would use to describe both of these,
right?
But it is something that we don't know. We just don't know, right? All right. Let's see. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball.
Who leads the team this year in tackles? Tackles for loss, sacks, and then interceptions.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of questions. So tackles.
TFLs.
Tackles is probably a linebacker. That's your safest
right
bet.
So you got Drake Bowen, who I think is going to end up starting at Mike. You're going to have Kaiser that's going to be in there a bunch. Still not sure exactly what position he's going to be in. Primarily, I think he starts at the will, but he could bop around. He could play, all over the place, positionally or, situationally, in various positions. So, he's got a shot, I suppose. But I would say Drake Bowen. I think he's going to lead the team in tackles this year.
I would say Drake Bowen or Kaiser. And I would say Kaiser depending on how much he plays. I don't think it's going to be the Rover, whoever that ends up being, Snead or Osbury. I guess another dark horse would be Howard Cross again, just because of the production he had last season. But I don't know if that actually hurts him because it draws more double teams.
Sure.
And, with exposure kind of comes good and bad. Like teams start playing you a little bit harder when they start recognizing your game a little bit. So I would say the safe bet is Drake Bowen. But again, that's just contingent on him starting.
Sure.
The reason why I like Kaiser is because I think he's going to be the guy that definitely plays. He's going to be the most reliable linebacker next season. And I think that'll go a long way in terms of tackles.
Yeah, he's going to – he'll be out there a bunch. So how about tackles for loss?
I
feel like this is a layup to me.
You think so?
I do, yeah.
I guess I would say Howard Cross. Or
that's what I would say as well. That was immediately who came to mind. I just think he's going to be in the backfield a bunch. I think teams are going to try to run up the middle, and they're going to run into big 5-6, right, standing right there. And he's just going to get his hands on a lot of ball carriers in the backfield this year.
I think that, yes. My dark horse would be Snead, because I think you'd see him kind of come on pressure packages too, where you're just kind of letting him go, not necessarily reading or, making play, like reading what the offense is giving him, just kind of limiting the thinking and telling him where to be, like type situation. Like kind of like Maris. Like we saw a lot of Maris kind of, stunting and look like just running into the linemen and that sort of stuff. I think Jalen Sneed could be a dark horse for that type of.
Here's what I would say about Jalen Sneed. I think he will lead the team in tackles for loss based on how many plays, how many snaps.
I see. He would have a higher success rate for the amount of snaps that he's going to play.
There you go. Correct. I think he would. Like if you took everybody's tackles for loss and you divided them into how many snaps they got, I think Sneed's rate is going to be the highest. I just don't know that he's going to have the opportunity to have the highest number overall.
Right.
Does that make sense?
His sample size isn't going to be as large as everyone else's.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
I think I like what a lot of people are talking about with tackles for losses with Riley Mills. I think Riley Mills could also be on the brinks of a breakout season. And I think I saw something. I can't remember if it was a tweet or what it was, but someone was kind of like basically just saying what kind of freak athlete Riley Mills is in terms of his size, strength, and speed. And so maybe we get, a little bit more of that this season. I wouldn't be surprised if Riley Mills and Howard Cross tear it up in the interior this season.
Oh, I could see that. I could absolutely see. Look, those two guys coming back to be a part of this defense like changes the entire landscape of what we thought this defense was going to be without them. You know what I mean? I mean, it's completely different. It's completely different. All right. Sacks.
Oben.
Okay.
I think you go out and get a defensive end. That's what he's there for. I don't trust Botello. I don't trust Junior Tuihalamaka.
Okay.
I don't trust Anye. Or sorry, he's a defensive tackle. I don't trust Burnham. Really? I just think it's RJ Oben or Burnham. It's definitely not Botello. I can tell. I am out on the Botello experience.
No, I definitely agree with that. I was Burnham is the one that jumped to mind for me, just because I think he's just sneaky quick, and I think he's gonna be
more under the radar.
Yeah, he's gonna be the name that they're not gonna be worried about to start the season, and I think he could make some noise getting into the backfield. You know what I mean? So I'll go with Burnham for fun. I think he could be a lot of fun to watch. And then the last one's interceptions. Now this is a good one.
There's a lot of candidates in this secondary. I think it's going to go back to Benjamin Morrison this season. I love Watts, but I don't think you could replicate what he did. That's hard to do what he did last season.
My initial instinct was to say Watts over Morrison because I just think it's going to be very difficult to go. Like it's easier to go away from a corner than it is to go away from a safety. You can do it, but it's harder to do. And I think that Xavier Watts is good enough to make people pay when they try to do that. But then I thought to myself, teams are going to be going away from Benjamin Morrison. So if they're going away from Morrison, where are they going? They're going to Christian Gray. And I think Christian Gray could end up leading the team in interceptions when it's all said and done. That kid knows how to high point the ball. We saw how athletic he is with the one-handed interception that he brought down last season. I think it could be I think Christian Gray could be the guy. I think he could be true sophomore leading the team in interceptions. But we shall see. That's what's fun about these shows. We can say whatever we want.
Yep.
Generally, people don't hold us to it, but they probably will now that I said that. All right. Here's a fun, fan type question.
What/where is the best seat from which you watched a Notre Dame football game?
While you think about it, because I already knew this question was coming. While you think about it, I'm going to say before the most recent renovation, before the Crossroads project or whatever they called it, you were able to go and be on the roof of the press box. Okay. And they didn't care. Like you could just go up and down. You could go to the top floor. You could go to the press box. Like they did not care where you went. And so it was a lot of fun to go up top to the press box. And so one day, and I don't remember what game it was, I go up to the press box and I'm standing there and I'm watching the game. And all of a sudden I look to my right and I'm literally standing right next to Joe Montana. And I'm like, I'm like, don't be stupid. Don't say something stupid. Don't say. I ended up not saying anything to the guy except
That's
for
the
like,
best decision.
go Irish or something like that when they did something well. You know what I mean? But like, that was by far the best seat because I love like being on the roof of the old press box is pretty much like being in our seats now because it's so much higher than it used to be. So looking down and being able to see the entire field without having to crane your neck around, like I love that view. And so great view, great company. That was by far the best seat I ever had.
Trying to think here. I'm definitely picking a home game. I'm not picking a road environment. I'm not.
That's fair.
I've been to games at Michigan State, been to games at Purdue, been to games at the Big House, been to games at Ohio State.
Oof. Yeah, I've been to one of those.
I'm trying to think. Kind of covers this region. So what they usually do with the press box passes is the last few minutes of the game, you're allowed to go down to the field.
Yep.
I've done that a few times in my youth, and I was standing next to Vince Vaughn and Will Ferrell at one point. I think it was a USC game on the sideline. But I don't want to count that because I didn't watch the entire game there. You're only down there for the last like 5-10 minutes of the game.
And honestly, that's a terrible place to watch the game.
Yeah, because you can't see, they're giants down there.
You can't see anything. Like it's fun to say that you've done it because I've done it as well, obviously, right? Especially big games.
Right.
You look around, the stadium's full. Like it's an awesome experience.
You see all the celebrities on the sideline.
Right. 100%. Because I've seen Vince Vaughn down there before, stood right there. I high-fived him one time. Like it was awesome when Notre Dame did something well, but you can't see squat down there. It's a terrible place to watch a game.
I think the best seat I sat on was we used to get tickets all the time. Man, this was when I was young. My dad would get 2 tickets to every game.
Yeah, that was back in the day.
And I'd have to I would, usually decide who could kind of go with me. And we always would sit, this was the old stadium, press box side around the 30 to 35 yard line, I think opposite of the student section, behind Notre Dame's bench or on Notre Dame's side. I think that's where it would be because you're close to midfield and I could see everything. And like those were like the Brady Quinn days, like seeing him throw bombs to Jeff Samardzija. Like I remember the UCLA game so vividly, watching Jeff Samardzija and Brady Quinn go to work in those last 2 minutes, and Jeff Samardzija ends up scoring a touchdown with like 30 seconds left or something. And it just felt like I could see everything. Like I was, like a movie theater. I was right there. I could see everything. So I think that's where I would be. I was about midway up, probably about the 30-yard line on Notre Dame's side.
Nice. So one thing I don't like about the press box now is we're on the opposite side. So the press box is on the visitor's side.
Yeah.
And it's just weird. Like it's just
swishing. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. I mean, yeah, the sun's in your eyes and when it's going down, that obviously is annoying, but more so I'm just not used to being on the visitor's side. And it's been years at this point, and I'm still not used to it. I hate it. I do not like being on the visitor's side at all. Ugh.
I just remember this last season, the one game I went to, I was sitting in the stands. I called my dad and I just looked up and I was like, "Oh, there you are." Because I was sitting on the visitor side too. And I was like, "This is weird. Funny. What are you doing over here?"
Yeah, that's hilarious. All right, let's see here. What do we got next? Oh, this is just a fact or fiction. Apparently we're dipping into a little Ryan Roberts Forehead's writing some rapid fires here for us.
Ryan Roberts Forehead wants to know, fact or fiction, Notre Dame will have a top 5 offense and defense.
Ooh.
I'm going to go fiction. Okay. I think they'll be top 10. I don't think they'll be top 5.
Top 10, I feel like, is a very safe bet because I agree with you. so much is riding on Riley Leonard for them to be a top offense. I am very confident in the defense
Yes.
being an elite group. I am.
I just don't know if it all like it either comes together or
Yeah,
it doesn't.
right. I do feel good about the defense. There's just too many question marks right now offensively.
I mean, think
Offensive
about
line.
offensively, new offensive line, new quarterback, new wide receiver room, new wide receiver coach, new offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Too
Tight
many
ends,
question marks.
there's question marks. So who's healthy? Who's going to be the starter? The only thing I know is that the running backs are loaded. Really, that's the only thing I know on offense right now.
Right.
And so all those pieces to come together and be top 5 in one season.
That's tough.
That's tough.
That's real tough. And so I'm not ready to say the offense is going to be top 5. I would say it's fiction because I think the defense could very well be top 5, but the offense, there's just too many question marks. Talk to me again, a couple of days before the first game, or even after the Texas A&M game, to see what this offense looks like when they're actually playing against somebody. That's going to be tough for me. Because all year, as we were watching the offense do their thing, you weren't thinking to yourself, this is a top 10 offense, right? And I'm pretty sure that's what they ended up being. Like, they were a really good offense. I mean, they broke the scoring record at Notre Dame. So, I guess I just need to see it and feel that they're a top 5 offense. That's a big stretch for me at the moment. All right, let's see here. We are ND for life.
Mailbag, at practice, are we hoping to see a difference with winter training from Landau?
So do you think you're going to see, if you're at practice, do you think you're going to see a visible difference between the guys from the end of last season to the first day of spring practice?
No, but I will say that this question should be amended to, are we hoping to see a difference by the time spring practice is over? Because I think I think the number one thing you want to look at in terms of a job by Landau, there's 2 things. 1, durability and health. Are they staying healthy? 2, just the quick twitch stuff. Are they getting in and out of cuts? Are they more explosive? Change of direction. I think that's the 2 things you got to look at. Change of direction and staying healthy the entirety of spring. I think those might be, like, for me, that's where those would be my metrics in determining or answering this kind of question, noticing a difference.
Yeah, I am not hoping to see a difference because I don't think there will be one. You know what I mean? That's the least of my, concerns going into practice tomorrow morning. I would say it's almost impossible. I mean, they've only had 8 weeks under Lando. I mean, it hasn't been that much. And so I don't anticipate seeing a big change. I need to see a season, right? I need to see a season with less hamstring injuries. I need to see a season with the team.
And that's kind of what I was getting at with the hamstrings.
And being in top physical condition at the end of the season that they were in the beginning of the season. Like, that's where you get paid, man. Like, as the strength and conditioning coach, like, that's where you make your money. It's at the end of the season in November. Are these guys still firing on all cylinders physically? And even more so this year because there's going to be a playoff. And we all know that Notre Dame's not going to get a bye, right? We've rehashed that. And so Notre Dame needs to be at their peak at that point. They can't be trending down. And so if they are trending down from a physicality standpoint, from a health standpoint, then we're going to have questions about Loren Lando and how he's operating and things like that. If they are, then it was a success. And then, of course, we need to see it year after year. So I think it's a little bit early to be making any kind of judgments on the strength and conditioning program under a new coach.
Definitely.
Okay. Here's a question that I know where he wants the answer to go from our buddy Salty Virginia Peanuts.
Mailbag. Jesse and Vince, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being worse and 10 being the only acceptable choice, how good will the Great One season be? Scale of 1 to 10, And like you said, 1 being the worst, 10 being
the only acceptable answer, apparently.
1,200-yard receiver and 6 touchdowns. That's what would get a 10 out of 10 for me. 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns. Basically 100 yards a game, a touchdown every other game. That's my simple math real quick. I'm going to put him there's a lot of talent in the room. Proven talent, I guess you could say, too, with Chris Mitchell coming in. Denbrock had 2,000-yard receivers last year at LSU. That's why I brought up that 2,000-yard receiving thing.
Well, they're going to get drafted fairly high, too. So
correct.
Yes.
And a Heisman quarterback.
Correct. Also correct.
I'm not trying to stall. I like to give reasonable answers and give justification for kind of what I don't want to just throw stuff out there. I'd say 6.5 or a 7 is where I would land with Greathouse this season. And I think 7 is where I feel good about. And that's not 7's still good for me. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
I still think that's a good season. So yeah, 6.5 or 7 is what I'm feeling.
So I was in the 7 to 7.5 range before you decided to make your call. Because when we establish what a 10 is, like you just did, 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. And it's not because he's not a good wide receiver. It's just I don't think he's going to be the guy.
Right.
Just don't. We don't even really know what his actual position is. He started out in the slot, and that's where he had a lot of his success. Then they had to move him outside because of injuries. Didn't have as much success out there. Are they going to keep him out there? Are they going to move him back in where he belongs? We honestly don't know the answer to those questions. At least I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully I'll figure that out to a degree tomorrow, right? But if they play him correctly, he can be very effective. I just don't think he's going to have 1,200 yards. I think he could have 6 touchdowns. I could see that. But I see him more along the lines of 700, 750.
Yes.
And that would put him at a 7.5 for me. Again, very important guy, potential starter at that position. I just don't see him getting over 1,000 yards. I just don't see it. But I hope I'm wrong. I mean, that'd be great if I was wrong, because that means they would probably, if he ends up with 1,000 yards receiving, Jesse,
that means you got another 1,000 yards.
There receiver. You go. That's exactly what I was just going to say. That means there's going to be 2.
Yeah.
That's just how I see it, And so we'll see what happens. If he is the guy that, of course, Salty thinks he is, and especially in his true sophomore season, too, by the way. It's not like he's a Grizzly veteran.
Still a young lad.
Yeah. So he's got plenty of time. But if he does that, this team is going to absolutely take off in more ways than one. No doubt. All right, let's stay on the wide receiver track. And this one, I don't know that we can even really answer this one, but I'm going to throw it up there anyway from DK.
Man, I saw this one. I was hoping you wouldn't bring this up, because I don't think we have enough time. This could be a whole show.
This is a whole show, man. And I think I'm actually going to write it down, DK, as an entire show. And I know that Brian and I will do this show at some point over the summer. I'm sure of that. Let's see, I'm just writing it down.
I could give you who I think the starters are going to be, but I'm not going to be able to break it down.
Yeah, go ahead. Give us something.
Chris Mitchell in the slot. Jaden Thomas at the X. And I really think the F, or the field wide receiver, that's where it gets a little tricky, right? I think you could see Greathouse. I mean, if Faison is great again, I think you could see Faison there. I also think you could see Bo Collins there at some point.
Yeah.
I think there is, between Greathouse, Bo Collins, and Jordan Faison, there is a potential for some sort of 3-man kind of rotation between those 3. I think that as long as Jaden Thomas and Chris Mitchell stay healthy, those are kind of your constant guys, right? But I feel like there is a question mark between the group of Greathouse, Faison, and Bo Collins, and how they're kind of intertwined into the offense.
And I think there's positional flexibility between those 3 guys as well.
Right, and that's what helped. They can play, like you just talked about how Greathouse can play really any wide receiver position on the
Right.
field.
Right. No, absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with who you think the starters are going to be. I think it could vary. I like Bo Collins in the starting lineup. I don't know that he comes to Notre Dame, not with a promise of being a starter. I don't think that's the case.
Strong chance.
But I think he's got a really good chance of being a starter,
Especially coming from Clemson.
Yeah. And I think, look, Jayden Thomas's biggest, enemy is his injuries.
Right.
If he can stay healthy, he's going to start. Like, that's how I feel.
No, 100%.
I think he's going to start.
You got to have a big frame wide receiver out there.
And he is that guy. We know that he's that guy, right? And so I think it could be a combination. It just depends on who they're playing too. I do think this wide receiver room is deep enough that you could see different variations of starters from game to game to game to game.
Yeah.
Right?
From
all the guys that you just mentioned, I think they all have an opportunity to start a game here or there, but be an integral part in the rotation. And again, I want to see some spring practice first before I start making any starters declarations. But I think all of the guys that you named are going to be a part of this offense, if not a couple of other guys. Finds a spot where KK Smith and his speed and his agility can help you, and all these Cam Williams for that matter. Yeah, he's a freshman, but he's not like your normal freshman, and they've proven in the past couple of years that they're not afraid to play freshmen, right? So I don't think Cam is going to start, but I think he's got an opportunity to get some playing time, right? So it's going to be fun to watch these guys. There's no doubt about that.
Do you care if I bring up a question that I like here?
Do it.
All right.
Now that you've got the control, Jesse, you're in the starred arena.
I know. I can't wait to mute someone. I really want someone to talk sideways to me. I really want someone to start talking sideways to me.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I can put them in a little timeout. Mailbag from Salty Virginia Peanuts. Thank you for another great thought-provoking question. Does Denbrock ever put the tight end in the backfield? I've seen a few NFL teams do it, and it's been very productive for blocking as well as receiving. So I think yes. Short answer, yes, because of what you can do with a tight end in the backfield and who your quarterback is. Riley Leonard is your quarterback. You can use that in a lot of RPO schemes as a lead blocker on power quarterback runs or, design handoff runs to your running back. And like you said, you can also fake those runs and leak your tight end into a simple flat route or, whatever underneath route, any sort of underneath route the tight end can come out of the backfield. So I just believe that, given who your quarterback is and, how much depth Notre Dame has at the tight end position, you are guaranteed to see some tight ends line up in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great role for like a Davis Sherwood or a Cooper Flanagan. I think those guys are very effective in the backfield. I'd even hand them the ball every now and again just to do it. You know what I mean? But they can block. They can obviously get out of the backfield and catch the football.
Get under a little tush push under Riley Leonard if they need to.
Absolutely. You can do a lot with that. Now, he says specifically, does he ever put tight ends in the backfield? I can't say I've watched enough of Mike Denbrock outside of Notre Dame to really be able to answer that question. But what I can tell you is he optimizes what a team is good at and will optimize, and I'm talking about personnel. Like, what are these guys good at? What can we do with these guys to make them the best that they can be? I could definitely see this occurring with the amount of tight ends that they have, on the roster right now. Because look, we all know that Mike Denbrock wants to be primarily 11 personnel, and so from now on, they're going to be getting probably one tight end a recruiting class. Well, that's not now, right? So
Still now, got an overload of tight ends.
You've got a buttload of tight ends, man, and so you've got to be able to use them to the best of their ability. And I think this is one way that you could potentially get multiple tight ends on the field at the same time. So I think that's a great question. I think that's a great observation as well.
And I also want to clarify a little bit too, like in the backfield, it's not going to be like a running back split. Like you wouldn't see like
Right.
a running back on one side and a tight end on the other, you basically see a tight end splitting the difference between the quarterback and the line of scrimmage, an offset to one direction
Offset
or the other.
eye or,
Right.
Offset split backs, that kind of
They will
deal.
never just,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming most people know that, but I just kind of wanted to
Oh, I love it.
clarify that.
That's what we're here for. We're Irish Breakdown. We break it down for you, X's and O's. We do have a super chat here from Tyler Evans. Thank you so much, Tyler, for the super chat. He says, if you could coach one freshman on this roster, who would it be and why?
I'm gonna go true freshman.
Yep.
Well,
While you peruse the roster, I'm going to tell you who I would pick. And for me, I always coached on the offensive side of the ball. I coached all over on the offensive side of the ball, but mostly wide receivers. And so I'm going to take who I think is the most gifted freshman wide receiver on the roster. I'm going to go with Cam Williams. I think he would be a lot of fun to coach because not only does he have just God's gifts to be a wide receiver, but, just kind of working with him and working on the little things, to make him that much better. And then to see him apply it on the field, I think would be a lot of fun. So Cam Williams would be my pick.
I would go with, I would say Drake Bowen, but he played a little bit last season, so I don't know if he's disqualified.
Let me see if he's considered a redshirt freshman. You go ahead.
If I can't go Drake Bowen, I would go KVA as the true freshman. I'm not even going to try to say his name. So
yeah, he's a sophomore. I think he played a bunch of special teams last year.
Yeah, and so I would just pick one of the young linebackers. How about that?
KVA is a good choice, dude.
And so I would just want to get KVA going on terms of the mental side because he's physically gifted. He's going to be fast. He's going to be strong. But just in terms of alignment, reading things, getting your eyes to process things quickly, that sort of stuff, I think that would be where I'm at. Because Vince, I was actually listening to this podcast the other day, and Troy Polamalu was on, and he said that he could play every position on the defense, and he would switch with people basically. Like when you saw him blow up plays in the backfield, he would switch with linebackers and basically be like, I'm going to, I know what play is coming, so I'm just going to go make the play, essentially. And so, I know that's drastic, but that's kind of what you would want, KVA at a young, you would want to teach him the defense so he knows what everyone else is doing. Because if you know what everyone else is doing and where they're supposed to be and why they're supposed to be there, it makes it so easy. You can almost predict what's coming. And so you combine that with all his physical gifts, that would be my answer.
Okay. I like that. And we're going to stick with the KVA conversation. And we've got a question here from We Are ND for Life.
Will KVA be a starter at linebacker by mid-season? He will get reps. He will be out there. If these linebackers start to struggle for any reason, I'm not going to say there's no chance he's not going to be a starter, right? If someone's not doing what they're supposed to and he's learning everything quickly and knows what he's supposed to do, yeah, I could see him being as a starter. But again, a lot of people don't realize the mental side of it. He needs to learn an entire college defense / basically NFL defense, right? That's all the guys, Bertrand, etc., have told us about Al Golden's defense. It's an NFL defense, right? And so he's got to basically learn an entire NFL defense in a spring camp and a fall camp. So that's going to be hard. And so whether or not he gets it done mentally is the biggest question.
I agree with that completely. And I think that ultimately will not allow him to be a starter this year. Now, again, if there's injuries or serious struggling, serious struggling, then maybe that's a pot. But we're talking literally going the wrong direction and seriously struggling for them to go from a Jack Kaiser to a KVA. That would be a massive shift in Golden's philosophy. It just would be. And then also I don't see him leapfrogging Drake Bowen. Right. I don't see that happening. Right. And so I just think that there's a lot of talent ahead of him right now. And so that would be very difficult. It's not impossible, but I just think it's very difficult. And so I think, like you said, I think he'll get time on the field. I think he's going to be a stalwart in special teams.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
gonna make plays in special teams. They're not going to redshirt
It's going to be
KVA.
a heat-seeking missile going down the field.
Exactly. And so he'll get playing time. I just don't see him being a starter this season. Now, once Kaiser shuffles off the roster,
oh yeah,
I would love to see KVA and
Osbury and Bowen
together. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. I just don't see that happening this year. I think that's more 25 than it is 24. So it would be I can't wait.
For everyone commenting on my cat, I know he is ever since I got home, he has just been nuts. Like nuts. Naomi Naomi usually goes upstairs when we start the show, and she took the dogs with her, and the cat is not happy. I'm not kidding you, he has just not stopped screaming and running around, just like sprinting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've seen him.
Everywhere. Yeah, just zooming everywhere. Yeah. So I don't know what his deal is, but he is not happy about something.
Love it.
Can we get in this baseball question, you think?
Yeah, we can, because we only got a couple more minutes here for rapid fire. So yeah, hit it from Anthony.
My mic.
There you go.
My mic messed up.
There you go. Hit it again.
Thank you. Your impressions of the baseball team so far this season. I'm a fan of the offensive output, but the pitching isn't there right now. So for anyone not following Notre Dame baseball so far this season, because they started in February basically.
Yeah, no kidding. They said their first home game last night.
Yeah, they're 9-2. Their 2 losses are to Florida International University.
Yep.
And I would agree. I love the offensive output. I mean, a guy had 3 home runs last night in a game.
And they smoke showed Purdue.
Yeah, and he's got like 6 home runs in his last like 15 at-bats. Or like they can hit the ball.
Yes.
Their issue is not going to be hitting the ball this season. But like Anthony said, I have more concern when your Friday guy against FIU gives up like a 12. I don't even know. It was like a 10 spot in the first inning. They gave up 13 runs on a Friday to FIU. And for people who don't know, your Friday guy is your best guy. That's your stud. Like you should not. Your Friday guy shouldn't be giving up 10 runs to FIU in the first inning, right? And so you've seen that kind of happen more than once this season against Tennessee Tech. Okay, they won that game, but they still gave up 11 runs to twice in wins to Tennessee Tech. I just don't know that their starting pitching is there. I think, and this is remember this is non-ACC opponents. When the ACC baseball starts, we're talking about one of the better baseball conferences in the country. And so if your Friday guy is giving up 7, 8, 9, 10 runs in the first inning to a team like FIU, it's only going to get worse when Florida State rolls into town, North Carolina rolls into town, etc. And so, yeah, I like what I like. They're off to a great start, but the pitching is not. And so we'll have to see. I think once the ACC place opens up a little bit, we'll have a better idea of the pitching.
Hey, that's spot on analysis. And I will always say this though. Yes, you need pitching. I mean, you can't win without pitching. That goes without saying. But I do love the fact that this early in the season, Notre Dame is hitting so well. That has not always been the case.
They usually take a while for the bats to heat up.
100%. And so if they're hitting this well now,
they never play this well on the road to open a season. They always have to come back home.
Yes.
And then that's when kind of you start to see the offensive production. And Vince, I actually did a little calculation, so I'd be mad if I didn't get this number out there. But in their 11 games, their pitching staff has given up 68 runs, which is about 6.2 runs per game. That's not a great number when you consider they're playing FIU and Tennessee Tech.
Right.
So
I agree with that. I think it does bode well that they're hitting the ball so well.
Yes.
I do think that that's a great sign. And I think if they can keep that up, obviously, they're going to be able to mask some of the pitching issues that they have. And hopefully it's the opposite of what it normally is, and the pitching will kind of catch up to the hitting. You know what I mean? But I have been very impressed with the bats, because that is
They just hit bombs.
They're usually not great hitting the ball in February and most of March, to be honest with you.
I always blame it on not being able to play at home, and when they are at home, it's cold.
Yeah, seriously. So, and they're hitting the crap out of the ball. So, it is. If you like offense, man, you're gonna watch some Notre Dame games because you're gonna see a lot of runs scored.
You should, if you're in the area, you should sneak out to some games. I think they're offering free admission to like all home games this season.
They have ever since COVID, the Olympic sports minus basketball have been free.
Yeah,
as far as I know. So, get out there and take advantage. It's a fun time, and they got a new scoreboard out there too, from what I understand. So.
Oh, that park facility is beautiful. I love Frank X Stadium.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's awesome. A lot of your formative years spent at Frank X Stadium. Right?
Yeah, I spent a lot of years in the Notre Dame baseball clubhouse.
Yes, you did. All right, Jesse, are you ready for a little bit of rapid fire?
Let's do it
rapidly.
Right, let's do it rapidly. I like that. I'm all for it. I got a middle school band concert to get to yet.
Uh-oh.
I know. All right, here we go. Number one, a Jesse special. Joey Chestnut was in attendance at last night's Cavs-Celtics game, along with, of course, Jason and Travis Kelce. At halftime, Chestnut competed in a pierogi eating contest. 3 random fans combined to face Chestnut, who ate 39 pierogies in 2 minutes. So over under 9.5 pierogies in 2 minutes for you.
So the reason why I brought this up, I was at the Cavs and Celtics game last night, and I saw Joey Chestnut come out, and they just roll him out, baby. Anytime they need him to eat a lot of food, the Ohio native comes out of hibernation. And it was funny because I was at last year's game when they did this, and so they were like, "Oh, Joey Chestnut's here." I was like, "Is this Groundhog's Day?" I'm having flashbacks. I looked at Naomi. I was like, "Didn't they do this last year?" But yeah, they take 3 random fans and they combined have to try to beat.
They probably didn't even come close.
No, they didn't even touch him. It was like 23 to 39 or something like that. But the entire time, I'm just thinking like these guys are eating slow. Like this is an eating contest. Like I'm gonna go over. I think I could.
You're taking the over here.
I could eat 10 pierogies in 2 minutes. If Joey Chestnut could eat 40 in 2 minutes, I can crush out 10. Vince, there's no way.
We may have to test that theory at some point. I mean, pierogies aren't that big, first of all.
That's what I mean.
So, yeah, they're not that big. I feel like I could do 10. Unless they're filled with something like super duper spicy or something like that. But like, pierogies are not that big, man. Like, you should be able to eat a couple of those at a time. So, I mean, they're dumplings. Like, it's dough with something stuffed inside. I'll take over the 9.5. And frankly, I'm disappointed in whoever the 3 people are that only combined for 23. That's
why
weak.
The question came up because I was like, you guys aren't even trying. Like, I could take down. I could take the whole time. I was like, I could get down 10. Like, I could get down 10 and 120 seconds. It's 10 pierogies means you're eating 1 pierogi every 12 seconds. Yes. I could get one down every 12 seconds.
Let me ask you this. As you were watching, because I'm sure they had it like tight on the people so you could see who was doing what.
Oh, yeah.
Describe to me the 3 people that they picked, and then describe to me who the weak link was. Because I'm sure somebody was putting them away.
Yeah. So it was all men. This was an all-male competition.
Oh, really? That surprises me. I'm just gonna say
no women out there. Guy on the far left was I'm gonna have to really recall here. Guy on the far left was I wouldn't call him like people often confuse the word big with fat. He was just a big guy.
Okay.
Tall,
put together,
husky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was probably me, but a little bit taller, right?
Okay.
He was very weak. I think he put down like 5 or 6.
Oh, that's so weak.
I know. And then you had 2 kind of just average looking guys after that, right? Like probably like more like your complex, like you know what I mean?
Enough.
Just
I got you.
Just guys, and I think one of them put down like 8, and then the last guy put down like 7 or 8 as well. So like it was It was nothing impressive.
Kind of weak across the board.
And then you got Joey Chestnut just like, like just pierogi mush flying everywhere and looking like he's choking. Like I don't know. Like if I'm hungry enough, and I got that. I could put down 10 pierogi.
You got to be careful with the reversal of fortune, though. You got to be real careful that it doesn't come right back up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
The only eating challenge I ever did was at Hacienda, Vince. I don't know if you knew this, but Hacienda has what's called the Big Juan Challenge.
The Big
Juan? Just big burrito, just this huge burrito. And I made the mistake of eating. I was so hungry, and I was just mowing chips and whatever beforehand.
That's the problem. That's where they get you.
Yeah. And so then I got to the Big Juan, and I was like, I only got a little bit left. Like I got, I had friends with me. Like I think I like baseball. Like I was in high school and I had baseball teammates with me.
Peer pressure.
Worst decision I ever made because that burrito it sat in my stomach for like 2 weeks. What it felt like. I would go through like warm-ups and I just felt like there was just this baby burrito in my. I just felt constipated for 2 weeks. I was like, I just want to get this thing out of me. Worst decision I've ever made.
But it didn't come back up.
Didn't come back up.
It went out the right way.
It went out the right way.
It's a great question, though. We might have to do an eating contest at some point. That'd be fun. All right, let's see here.
Oh, that leads into the second part of what eating contest would you be best at? Like you pick your food, you're like, I know I could dominate this food.
Thin Mints.
Ooh.
I could dominate a sleeve of Thin Mints in like 30 seconds if necessary.
I like that. I like that. I think I could get down some pizza really quick, I feel like.
Yeah. Now,
I know it's a lot of bread, but
it is. What kind of pizza are you talking about?
I'm like a thin crust New York, like big New York pieces where you can kind of fold in half and just go to work.
Yeah.
I would go with pizza, I think.
Okay.
Or like chicken tenders, chicken nuggets. I think I could also do really well.
Nugs. Yeah. It's like in my elderly age, I don't think I could. I'm just not built for speed anymore. I think I could definitely, put away a decent amount, but even that has lowered in the last few years. Like when I was, like you talked about the Big Juan in high school, like we used to go to Ryan's Steakhouse. Do you remember Ryan's Steakhouse by any stretch? Okay. So it's a buffet. It's kind of like a Ponderosa. I think they were owned by the same people. And I'm telling you right now, Ryan's Steakhouse would lose money on us. Like we during football season,
they saw you guys and were like, here come these guys again.
During football season, me and a group of buddies would just go in there and we would just hammer Ryan's Steakhouse. And but I don't have that kind of room anymore, man. Like I don't know if my stomach's gotten smaller. It hasn't gotten smaller on the outside, but on the inside.
That's the thing is like I think that's what maybe the downside was at the Cavs game. As I don't think anyone's expecting to go into that game and be like, I'm eating pierogies tonight, Like I'm in a pierogi contest with Joey Chestnut. So they probably got a big meal before the game, had a couple beers.
Yeah, good call.
And then someone comes up and like, hey, you want to eat some pierogies in this contest? So
I need to know. You got no room.
I need to mentally prep for the day. I'm not eating. I'm getting everything out of me.
Yeah.
I think that also you got to have preparation for it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. You got to be mentally and physically prepared. There's no doubt about that. Okay, let's jump into question number 2. We got a few more to get to. The surprise headline coming out of spring practice will be blank. So just go wherever you want with this.
Jeremiah Love is the most explosive weapon on the offense.
That's a surprise?
I think he's going to be the guy to carry the offense. I think he's going to shoulder a large role of production.
That would surprise some people, though. You're right. That would surprise some people. Other people, not so much. I am going to say my surprise headline would be Kenny Minchie locks up the backup quarterback.
Ooh, I like position. That. I like that.
Surprise headline, yet not out of the realm of possibility, folks.
I like that. I was either going to say that or no. Because defensively, I mean, there's questions about how players are going to produce, but I think we have a good idea of like who's going to be where in
I
terms of,
agree.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
I
do.
think there could be some shuffling amongst the offensive line. I think you could say the same about really the wide receivers. Like the guys are there. It's just a matter of kind of, plug and play where guys are going to be played at, how they're going to be played together, etc. But I just think that I think what I was getting at is I think people are going to think there's going to be a drop off between Audric and Love. I don't think so. I think Love is going to pick up where Audric left off type situation. And I think that might surprise some people.
Yeah, no, I think that could be a big surprise. I wanted to go out on like a major limb someplace and get crazy, but I am actually fairly, I don't want to say confident that Kenny Minchie is going to be the number 2, but I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about
I
it.
like yours more than mine.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. I appreciate that. All right. And then Jason, or who said, oh, Joe Allen says then Angeli jumps into the portal. Yeah, could be. I think that would be okay. Look, I think one quarterback jumps into the portal after spring. I think that's definitely a possibility.
It's not the end of the world, though.
That would not surprise me. That would not be a surprise headline to me at all. So, and honestly, if you guys ever watched Kenny Minchie and Steve Angeli throw a football in practice, you would not be thinking that Kenny Minchie should not be the number 2 quarterback.
Ooh,
I'll just say that.
Vince dropping the little sneak peek practice take.
I'm telling you, Minchie he's got a beautiful, the ball just comes out of his hand. Him and CJ Carr, man, the ball just comes out of their hand differently than it does out of Steve Angeli's hand.
Doesn't it feel like the best way to might be able to describe it is when the ball leaves their hand, it feels like it's jumping. You know what I mean? It's just like
100%.
it's taking off.
It's effortless. And the motion is effortless.
It's like watching a really good MLB pitcher throw 102 like it's nothing.
Yeah.
They're out there just playing catch.
Right. Yep. Agreed. But we'll see what happens. You never know. All right. Buy or sell, the Notre Dame men's team losing 84-51 last night, dampening your thoughts on the recent 5-2 ACC stretch for the Irish.
Vince, can you tell me who they lost to 84-51?
North Carolina on the road.
Don't care.
Number 7 team in the country, I think they are.
Don't care.
Right.
They're projected to – they're a team that could win it all here in a month.
Yeah, this is true.
I don't care. Nothing is really going to dampen me this season because I've seen enough, to be quite honest with you. I've seen enough in Micah Shrewsbury's philosophy, what he wants to establish on a team culture in terms of effort and how hard they're going to play on a consistent basis. And when the results aren't there this season, the results aren't always going to be there. I think this season you're going to see it more on a game-to-game basis, but next season there's going to be games where they might not be able to score, and they're going to fall back on this season of the relentless defense and effort. And so they are establishing their culture. Shrewsbury is establishing his way of playing. I think he's done enough in year one with what he's given in terms of roster, where they were projected to finish. There's nothing that can dampen me, and I think that they're honestly gonna win a couple games in the ACC tournament. So I'm all in. I have seen enough, and I loved that victory against Clemson this past weekend as well.
Yeah, look, this team's fun to watch again, and this team's fun to root for again. I had no intentions of them going into North Carolina and winning that game. It was senior night for North Carolina. The place was packed. It looked like a sellout, at least on TV. It looked like a sellout. The crowd was going nuts. Notre Dame struggled. There's no two ways about it. They lost by 33. They struggled. And they were in the game for the first quarter of the game and then kind of let it slip away. And then, North Carolina just couldn't miss. But I'll tell you what, like I said, this team is fun to watch. Their defensive presence, they're number 2 in the ACC in defense. In points allowed. That's saying something because you certainly couldn't say that about really any Mike Bray team when he was here. And so I love the defense on this team. I love the hustle on this team. I love the fact that they're playing as a team. And the offense is going to come and go. I mean, let's be honest. This is still an offensively challenged basketball team. And Marcus Burton really wasn't his normal self in this game. And if he's not firing on all cylinders, then this team is going to struggle on offense. And that was kind of the case in this one. And he didn't really get any help from anybody either. And so this is an anomaly at this point. You're right. North Carolina is a potential, national championship contending team. Notre Dame is not. They're on the bubble at best to be in the NIT. And so, this doesn't change anything for me. I still think that they've got a ton of momentum going into the offseason. I think they've got if they somehow sneak into the NIT, I would not be surprised if they made a bit of a run there, to be perfectly
honest. Good defense would get them a long way in that tournament.
I completely agree with that. I think that could be a fun tournament to watch if they get in.
Gauge.
Yeah, absolutely. So
they're not the same team that they were at the beginning of the season.
Oh my gosh, it's night and day. They were a bad basketball team.
Yes.
And
the foundation and the basement is built right now.
Micah Shrewsbury coaches the crap out of this team.
Yes.
During games, and I can only imagine what it's like in practice. I haven't seen any practices, but I've seen him in games live and on TV, and he coaches the mess out of this team from start to finish. And so I love it, man. I am on board, and even though they got their butts handed to them on the road last night, it is not in any way.
Their time will come.
Yeah, absolutely. They should be in the tournament next year. I absolutely think that they've got a shot to be in the tournament because they still participate in the best basketball league in the country.
Yes, and play defense at a very high level in that conference.
100%. All right, let's jump over to a little college football. Recently, Johnny Manziel said that he's going to boycott the Heisman Trophy presentation until Reggie Bush gets his Heisman Trophy back. Do you agree or disagree with Johnny Football?
You know what? I do agree with this one. Johnny Football is crazy. Johnny, and whether or not you're tired of him at this point, you don't want to hear anything about him, whatever. Johnny Manziel kind of, to me, was kind of the blazer of this kind of, player versus college football type situation, right? Like everyone knows how much money Johnny Manziel was kind of due by the NCAA, right? Like that was the whole reason of their saga, is they hated each other. And so Reggie Bush, there are Heisman winners that have probably gotten away with far more in the college level than Reggie Bush did. And I still think there needs to be separation of best player in the game and potential kind of things that, might have happened, I guess you could say illegally. I don't know. But Johnny Manziel doesn't owe the NCAA anything at this point. Like, there's nothing, like, boycott or no boycott, Johnny Manziel is just going to do what he wants. And I like that he's sticking up for Reggie Bush because he's arguably one of the best college running backs of all time, and he deserves his Heisman.
I don't agree with him because I think he's just a whiner, and I'm not a fan. And so I can't agree with him. And look, if Reggie Bush did what he did now, then obviously there's no problem with it. But he broke the rules, man. Like, I don't have a problem with you being punished for breaking the rules. And so I think it was a little harsh to take away his Heisman Trophy. I think there's other things they probably could have done maybe, but I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I don't know. I just feel like I guess this is the dean in me talking. Like, if you break the rules, then you get punished.
There's always repercussions.
Yeah. I mean, I even tell my own children this, like, every decision that you make, something's going to happen. It could be positive,
good or bad.
It could be negative. Like, there's going to be something. And he broke the rules, and he broke them hard. Like, he broke the rules, man. And so I still think he was one of the best college football players I've ever seen play the game in person. And obviously I've only been to Notre Dame games since 2004 and on, but seeing him play in person and seeing his highlights that he put together, and he's one of the greatest college football players I've ever seen. Can't break the rules, man. You still would have been the greatest college football player I've ever seen, and you still could have had your trophy, but that's a different conversation. And I don't know. I think it's something deep inside me that says I will never agree with Johnny Football. I think that might be part of it too, but I don't know. Just makes me want to puke. All right. today we had a little bit of breaking news, I guess. Head women's basketball coach Niele Ivey put the rumors to rest in a press conference today and said that she spoke with Olivia Miles and she will be back next season. So scale of 1 to 10, how worried were you that she was not going to come back?
So I never actually probably vocalized this, but or put it out in the airs into the stream. I actually had this. I thought about this a little bit because I was like, you got Citron at guard, you got Miles at guard when healthy. Both of them go down, and now Hidalgo has to come in, and she's the star, right? Like she's leading the conference in scoring as a freshman. And then you bring back in Citron, and they're playing well together. And so then I was like, how do 3 really good guards play together on the court at the same time without personalities getting in the way, without egos getting in the way? Like everyone wants to be the player for their team, right?
Sure.
And then I think you throw in the fact that that was Olivia Miles' role before she got hurt. She was the player for this team. And so the
she was Hannah before Hannah. I mean, she was.
Right.
Right.
And so like that's what I mean. Like, how do you hand back if you're Hannah and Olivia? How does that transfer of power look when everyone's back and everyone's healthy, right? And so it was kind of like a 50-50 for me. I was like, I don't know how much someone would want to be maybe Batman to Robin or Robin to Batman after being Batman for so long, not needing a sidekick role or having a sidekick type situation. And so it was a 5 out of 10 for me, but I'm glad that it is now a 0 out of 10.
I didn't think that she was going to leave. Now, with everything that's going on in college athletics, I mean, nothing would surprise me, obviously. I think things are a little bit more static in the women's game than it is in the men's game and in football, right? I think you see a lot more movement there than you do in the women's game, although there is movement in the women's game. I just didn't see her leaving. She's got 2 years of eligibility left. I mean, Hannah Hidalgo, and Sean brought this up on Monday, she was recruited to play with Olivia Miles. Like that was always the plan. And so Niele Ivey must have an idea of what that's going to look like. And I'm sure she has articulated that very clearly to both Olivia and Hannah and what that could possibly look like. But if everybody comes back that has eligibility remaining, right? This team is going to be scary good next year.
I mean, it's what that we were hoping them to be this season.
For sure. Oh, 100%. But they're going to be scary good next year as long as everybody's healthy, because you take – and I was trying to put myself in Olivia Miles' shoes about, okay, do I stay at Notre Dame or do I go someplace else? You insert Olivia Miles onto this roster, on this lineup, they're a national championship contender. I don't know how many other teams, you probably count them on one hand, that she could go to and be inserted on the roster and they're a national championship contender, right? I mean, it's all right here, and you just have to stay, as opposed to trying to figure it out someplace else. And so at the end of the day, it always made sense to me for her to stay and just take this team to another level.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the amount of good players and talent. It reminds me, excuse me, of the Villanova teams that went on that national championship run. I mean, they had Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, like so many good players. And when you look back, you're like, how did they get so many good players into one room to all play together and come to the common collective goal of winning a national championship? But I think you brought up the best point there is that's got to be the driving factor. If they're serious about winning a national championship, that group of players has a great chance of doing it. And I think that's what ultimately has to come to mind of, what is the ultimate goal for these players? It's to win championships and go on to the next level. What's the best shot at doing that? I think staying together and all playing together at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And I am very much looking forward to watching this team next year. Look, they're fun to watch this year. They're going to get a legit big in with the freshman that's coming in and, get a decent rotation down there with the bigs. And then you're going to add Olivia Miles
Crazy
as well.
Guards.
I mean, And then
Good
the
luck.
one freshman that's been injured all season, right? Who's just a 3-point marksman.
Right.
I mean, it's only one ball. That's going to be tough. But other than that, this is going to be a fun team to watch, man. No doubt. No doubt. All right. Couple more questions to go. Here we go. Back to the world of college football. Arch Manning has decided to opt out of the new EA Sports NCAA football game. It was literally in the news. I couldn't believe it when I read this. He said he wants to his focus to be on the field. So do you buy or sell the Texas backup quarterback opting out?
I'm gonna be short with this one. This is a sell. This is so stupid. All you got to do is say you can put my name on the back of a jersey. You get money, you get a free game. Like, it's really not hard. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what someone had potentially advised him to say, but it's just dumb. There's nothing to focus on. You just say you can literally use his name in a video game.
It's so dumb. I realize Arch Manning doesn't need the money. Like, I get that. He's got plenty of money. So, like, the $600 in the free video game, it doesn't mean anything to him. But so now it's going to be like, sophomore number 16 or whatever. Like, QB number 16 is the backup. Like, he's not even going to play. He's literally the backup. So if somebody picks Texas, it's going to be Quinn Ewers that you're playing with. So who gives a crap? Like, I just don't understand why this is even news, first of all. And second of all, I don't understand why he wasn't just like, yeah, I don't care. Go ahead and use it. Like, I guess if people aren't gamers and they don't want to play the game, they don't care very much, then just say yes. All you got to do is say yes. You get $600 in a free game. I guess I don't see the downfall. It just silly, first of all, that he would say no. And it's even sillier that it made the news.
Right.
But yeah, his last name's Manning. And so we blow everything out of proportion. All right, last one for today. Saw this on Barstool Irish account on X. What is your Notre Dame, quote, you just had to be there, unquote, moment?
I just remember this game. I was there. It was pouring rain. And I just I just thought they were going to lose this game. It was the Stanford goal line stand back in 2012. It just, like, the amount of enthusiasm and, like, everyone understood the gravity of that game and moment. And
were you in the stands for that game, or were you in the box?
No, I was in the stands. I endured the entire game, and I think that plays into it as well. Just like,
sure.
You know what I mean? It felt like a movie, right? Like, just getting downpoured on the entire game. It's a sloppy game. They make a huge stand on the goal line. And again, everyone knew the implications, right? Like, it was national championship or bust that season. And so you combine that with the year Manti was having. That's just the one that comes to mind. Just that whole season and that moment, because had that moment not happened, they're not going to the national championship. And I was in that end zone in the student section as well. So, like, I was like right there. You know what I mean? It just felt like during everyone held their breath. You could, you could feel. Feel it all. So that was my moment.
I would say mine is the Bush push game. That will forever be burned into my brain for all the wrong reasons.
I only picked positive memories.
No, I get it. But like, for this one though, so you had mentioned earlier about how when you're in the press box, you can go down for like the last 5 minutes of the game, and I did that because Notre Dame was winning, and it's like, okay, I'm going down. Like, I don't normally go down. I was like, I'm going down. And I'm standing at about the 5-yard line at the end zone where this all occurred, right? And so you see the pass that got him down there, and then you see the play where Matt Leinart rolls out to his left, and he fumbles the ball, right? And we all think that that's the last play of the game. And so everybody on the Notre Dame sideline starts to rush the field, including me and your dad. Like, we're all on the field. And then you hear how the PA announcer say, like, we need to, clear the field. They put time on the clock. Like, I've never been happier in my entire life watching a sporting event than I was at that moment, only to watch the Bush push play happen. And I have never been at a lower point of my football watching career than I was at. So, like, going from like the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, like, instantly, just like that. Never had that feeling again, and it was terrible. It was absolutely awful.
Gut
So
wrenching.
it was a negative feeling, but it was you had to be there because I was super excited about it. It was unbelievable there for a second, and then it was all horrible after that. So that's my moment. All right, Jesse, that's gonna do it, man. Thanks.
Have we done it?
Thanks for hanging out with me.
Have we made it?
Wednesday. We made it all the way. It is after 7:30. It's time to wrap it up.
Is the horse back in the stable?
That's right. And the barn door is closed.
Oh, goodbye, everyone.
So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, share it with your family and friends. Check out boards.irishbreakdown.com for all of the breaking news. There's a massive recruiting. He called it a nugget. The people on the board were calling it a gold mine. So make sure you check that out. Awesome stuff over there. And we will be back tomorrow. So tomorrow, it's kind of a funky schedule. So we've got Notre Dame practice from 8 to 10. And then Brian and I will have a show at 1 o'clock, I believe, to break down practice. So it'll be in the afternoon show, the big show. It'll be me and Brian. We're going to break down what we saw in practice. Going to have a lot of fun with that. And then the night show, the IB Nation Sports Talk show, will be Sean and Jesse. And so we're going to be bringing all the info for you. And I guarantee you that Sean will have cuts from Marcus Freeman's press conference that I'm sure you guys will discuss. And so that'll be a lot of fun. So a lot of football coming tomorrow, folks. So stay tuned and stay locked in because there'll also be stuff on the boards. There'll be stuff on the website. It's going to be all over. So spring practice is officially upon us, and I can't wait. So practice number 1 tomorrow morning. Jesse, you have a wonderful rest of your evening and into tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow at 6, and then I will see everybody tomorrow in the afternoon. So for Jesse, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.